The next theory on personality is the social learning theory. This theory was designed and put together by a psychologist called Bandura in 1977. He stated that there are two important factors behind this theory. According to McCoy, these were mediating processes occur between stimuli and responses, and that behaviour is learnt from environments through the process of observational learning. This theory is stating that personality is changeable throughout adapting to the environment, meaning that it is unstable. This is done by watching other people's behaviour and actively copying what they are doing. To be certain that this behaviour is copied, it is vital that the person has to pay attention to what the person they are copying are doing. They must also have defined motor skills to reproduce the movement and physically be able to copy them. Bandura's experiment was carried out through the Bodo doll experiment, where he put the idea of someone copying and watching behaviour to see how the other person would react and if they would copy that other person's behaviour. The test was a child watching violent acts on the Bodo doll and then watching the child then mirror that behaviour. This test justified and backed up Bandura's theory. However, people won't just copy anyone. The more likely someone is to copy someone else's behaviour is due to something called armed. The first factor is attention. This is about making sure that the person copying the skill has full focus on what is going on. If they are less focused on the behaviour, therefore they aren't going to mirror it as accurately. The next factor is motor skills. Demonstration. There would be no point in demonstrating a movement, for example, if it was an advanced move in gymnastics, if the person copying the movement doesn't have the motor skills to replicate it. Retaining information is another important factor. Being able to keep information and retain it to be able to do the movement that has been shown over and over again. And finally, motivation. The person has to care and be interested in what is happening to be able to copy it, retain it, and therefore remember. For example, if a child is playing their favourite sports, football, and their coaches teach them a new skill, they are going to be engaged and motivated to want to learn, and therefore this is going to aid their observational learning. However, if they're in a different situation where they are not motivated or interested, for example doing homework, because they don't have the motivation to take part or they're not interested, it's going to be harder for them to retain the information and reinforce it. There are the four factors in place for effective observational learning to take place. Linking these four factors to sport, there are steps the coaches can take using armed method to ensure observational learning can take place. For example, for attention, this is making sure as a coach they are giving clear teaching points, not giving too many points. For rehearsal, it's about giving the learner opportunity to practice the skills so that they can retain the information. This could be during a training session. They are learning a new shot in tennis, for example. It'd be useful for once the coach has demonstrated the technique that they give the players time to practice. This would also help develop muscle memory as well as mental memory. Motor movements. This will be ensuring that the skill is at the right level for the learner. If they are new to a sport, it would be about teaching them the basics to begin with rather than the more complex skills that get built on later on once their performance is more developed. Finally, making sure that the drills is fun, so they have drive to perform and want to take part in what is going on. This would also help keep them motivated. A big part of the social learning theory is role models and who is most likely to copy who in certain situations. Because like mentioned before, people won't just copy anyone. The theory states that you're more likely to copy someone who is the same age and gender. In addition to this, someone they look up to, so role models. For example, younger children that have a famous footballer they look up to. However, this does have problems because if their role model, they might mirror their behaviour, depending on if it's good or bad. So no matter the situation, they are always going to copy their role model. However, if someone doesn't have respect for someone in general or just isn't interested in them, they are less likely to copy them. For example, if they do something deemed as unacceptable, they're most likely not going to copy that behaviour because they have no interest in the person doing it, meaning they are not going to copy the behaviour. However, if it's their role model doing unacceptable behaviour, because they have respect for them and look up to them, they're more likely going to copy that behaviour and see it as acceptable. So these factors are going to make you more likely to copy someone's behaviour: gender, age, personality. If the behaviour is in line with social norms, ethics and morals, the sports, and finally success. If there are more than one of these factors listed, the more likely they are to copy that person's behaviour, even if it's wrong. However, there are criticisms with this theory. It states that all learning takes place through observation. This is not correct for everyone because it doesn't take into account the personality of the person. If someone watches violent behaviour all the time, that doesn't mean they are necessarily going to copy it. Some people have different morals and will see certain situations as wrong and will choose not to copy them even if it's their role model. Even if the person who has chosen not to copy that person's behaviour has all the factors that would say that they would normally copy that person's behaviour. The theory suggests that we copy what we see, but that is not always right. It depends on the person, their personality, and their morals. Another example would be twins. Twins are born and raised in the same household normally, with the same morals given off by parents and carers, but they still end up having completely different morals and personalities in some cases. A study done by Camberman show that in twin studies, he says these non-shared environmental influences essentially boil down to the individual's experiences siblings have and their own personal interactions with the environment. So, although they shared some environment, they also experience different external factors which will differ their personalities and how they act.